you have to have an insane amount of belief in what you do, because if you don't, you're in the wrong business. Like it's too competitive. And again, what we do, we can't see, feel, or touch. So you have to have that enthusiasm, passion, and belief for what you do. Otherwise, your client's never going to have.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm your host, Rexhen, and today's guest is Chris Mader, a leadership coach, former pro athlete, and the founder of MTA Consultancy. With nearly 3 decades of experience across talent development, executive leadership, and business strategy, Chris helps leaders and teams make the adjustment to unlock performance, build confidence, and create a culture where people thrive. From coaching frontline professionals to C-suite executives, Chris brings a rare mix of energy, empathy, and real-world experience grounded in a deep understanding of what drives human behavior and organizational success. His work centers on helping people embrace change with courage and clarity, whether it's through one-on-one coaching or team development or his high-impact training programs. And it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Rexhen, thanks for the introduction. Really nice bio. I appreciate that. Yeah, I hear former pro athlete. I forget, it was almost 30 years ago, but yeah, I've been in the corporate America and coaching business now for almost 3 decades. So it's been a long time ago, but that was a good time in my life.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was great that we managed to capture that from your LinkedIn. So right now, when you think about your coaching business and how this all got started, first of all, what inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
Yeah, great question. So it started at the age of 35, and I was in business development in corporate America, very happy in my job. And my boss said to me at one point, he goes, "Chris, what's your dream job? If you had enough money to make a living, right? You have money in the bank, you can pay your bills. What would you really want to do?" I said, "I want to be a coach." I didn't even hesitate. I'm like, I admire my college baseball coach. His name was Boyd Coffey. He passed away many years ago, but Boyd was my inspiration. I'm like, he impacted so many of the baseball players at Rollins College where he played. And so when I had the opportunity 2 years ago to start my own company, you have to come up with a company name. I thought of Boyd, and I called his son, Trey, who's still alive. And I said, "Trey, I want to name my company MTA Consultancy with the tagline, Make the Adjustment," because Boyd inspired me so much as a coach, and I'm going to be an executive coach and leadership coach. And Trey was like, "Oh my God, I think Dad would love that." It was a really nice testament to Boyd, and to carry the message and make the adjustment along that he taught me back in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really a purpose-driven career shift to start my own company and do this.
Cool. Awesome. So right now, when thinking about you and going through the coaching journey with your clients, what about it do you find the most rewarding since you started doing this?
It's funny you ask, because I literally just had a coaching call before this with a client, and we had this conversation where I see the transformation. I started working with this gentleman. This particular example is the example that I like to share, is back in November. And he was having a really hard time changing his behaviors and changing his attitudes towards his team and connecting with his team. And so I see him today, revenue's up, connectedness is up, attrition is down, morale is up. They have a rally cry. The culture's shifted in a positive way. And culture is a really tough thing to measure. You can do NPS surveys. There's all kinds of ways to measure that. But at the end of the day, if you have revenues up, people are happy, they're coming in earlier, they're staying later, they're happy to work together, you can just see it and you feel it. So I just think the reward for me is just making that positive impact on somebody that is open to the change of making adjustments when it comes to their leadership style, how they communicate with their team, continuous self-improvement, and just being open to change, which is why I wrote my book, Make the Adjustment. It's all about being open to change.
Cool. And so just for the audience to understand, like I mentioned, there's a portion of the audience that are either leaders or executives that are also listening to the podcast. Now, just to talk about the exact ideal client profile that you work with, how would you describe that? Is there a certain industry, certain demographic, or commonalities, common themes? How would you describe that?
Yeah, I mean, the home run ICP, ideal client profile for me is usually a professional staffing company. I was in the staffing industry for 27 years. So professional staffing is like IT, engineering, locum tenens, healthcare IT, but anywhere between 25 to 50 million, 25 to 100 million maybe, because they have enough money to invest in their people, but they don't have usually a formal learning and development department. So my ideal client profile is 25 to 50 million staffing firm, but I also work with companies that aren't staffing firms. So I've worked in, I mean, everything from addiction treatment to HVAC to construction to engineering,
Hmm.
because leadership is leadership. But yeah, my ideal client profile is usually mid-sized professional staffing.
And how does the engagement look like for these leaders that are working with you? How would you describe? Is there a certain program of certain length? We did actually mention that there's one-on-one coaching, there's team development, and there's a few training programs. How would you describe that?
Yeah, so there's a number of offerings. I mean, one is one-on-one executive coaching. So C-suite, vice president, director, just, someone who needs a coach to help improve their behaviors or skills. One of the favorite things I like to do is take a set of leaders at a similar tenure level. So
Hmm.
it could be new leaders, it could be emerging leaders, it could be mid-level leaders looking for development. But you take them through like a 6 or 9 month training experience together as like a cohort, and they learn a common leadership language. And they really get to spend time together in classroom training and virtual training and one-on-one coaching. And that's probably one of the favorite things I like to do, because executive coaching with executives, number one, they a lot of times they resist the change, right? They got to a certain level in their career because they're a successful person, they're hardworking, all these things. And they don't always want to change that behavior, even though they probably know they need to.
Hmm.
A new leader, like a group of 12 new leaders, is like it's like putty. It's like clay. You can form them, mold them, they're open. So I find that to be a lot of fun, and there's a ton of value to the organization when I deliver that program.
And so, how long would you say it takes when doing the one-on-one type of program, type of coaching? How long does it take for them to see meaningful change? Is there like a minimal amount of time?
Yeah, the meaningful change would be 6 months. You start to see it in 3 months.
Hmm.
You can start to see them applying things and trying things, but it's not until like 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, and when you really start to see the behavior shift, the impact of the change. Again, whether it's a behavior or a skill.
Hmm.
I say behavior or skill. Behavior would be things like ego management, stress tolerance, self control. Skills would be delegation, hiring, right?
Hmm.
So whether it's a skill or emotionally intelligent, behavior, it does take 6 to 8 months to really see it stick.
Yeah, and it makes sense. And this has been the answer that I've gotten from other executive coaches as well, that actual real shifts do take about 6 months to break either old habits, old behaviors. It does take that amount of time. And the next question for me is for you, and this is going to be a question that is going to be interesting to other coaches as well, is when it comes to you finding these executives, you finding your clients, is there a certain marketing channel that is working very well for you? How does that work for you?
So I've done it all organically. I mean, thankfully I grew up in revenue generation. I'm a former CRO.
Hmm.
So when I started my company, I have a CRM. I've created my own email marketing campaigns. I also hired a coach at one point to help me with my social media marketing campaigns, but I use my own marketing messaging, my own LinkedIn messaging, Instagram. Everything is very organic for me. And by the way, I see a ton of value in partnering with companies that are out there that can help coaches like us with this. But I was lucky where I had a very good network. And all I did was really just focus on messaging to my network. And I've been very lucky to have consistent revenue growth through that network. But I also see the point where I'm going to get to a point of revenue where that's going to end, right? And so at that point, I'll likely invest in a marketing firm or an outside coach or consultant to help me scale further. So yeah, I don't have the magic answer, but I'll say this, Regin, the biggest thing coaches need to get good at is sales, because coaches are good at coaching. But when I go into an RFP or request for proposal and I'm up against 3 or 4 coaches, honestly, I'm like, they're in trouble because they didn't grow up in sales. And so that's something that all coaches need to get some help with in coaching for themselves, of, just how to build a pipeline, how to nurture the pipeline, and ultimately how to close business.
So right now, when thinking about that, and thinking about you thinking of scaling further, looking to the future for the next 1 to 3 years, do you have any specific goals with your MTA consultancy?
I do. Yeah. So I'm an EOS implementer, enterprise operating system. And so I run EOS inside of my own business.
Hmm.
Year one, I had a goal of 200,000 in revenue. I think I had 168,000, but we started in May. So I did that in 7 months. I had a goal last year of 250,000. We hit that. I have a goal this year of 300,000. We're going to hit that. My goal in next year is 500,000. The goal after that is 750,000.
Hmm.
When I get to 750,000, that's when I feel like I'm going to top out and like I'm going to need a bigger engine. I'm going to start hiring people. I have, part-time employee right now, but right now I'm a small business, just me, but I feel like I can do it on my own for another year or two, but I'll need some help come 2026, 2027.
Interesting, because I was just going to ask for your team structure. I was looking at your website, and I did see another person, like a marketing person, if I'm not mistaken. Is that a full time or?
Part-time. So yeah, I found her through my Rollins College network. She's a part-time employee. So she manages my social media channels and she also develops a lot of training content. So when I'm traveling, if I'll say, hey, Kenzie, her name's Kenzie, I'll be like, hey, Kenzie, I need you to create, PowerPoint, Word document, job aid, workbook, everything I need for a training program. And I'll give her the skeleton of what that program looks like. And then she'll kind of dig in and create it and I can edit it later. But so yeah, she helps with training content development. She helps with my social media channels. And so it's nice to be able to outsource that to at least a part-time resource.
Cool. So, and I'm thinking about it, and EOS has been always interesting for us because there's not a lot of coaches that do utilize it so far. It's also not the simplest system to run, but it's a very good system when, especially when you're revenue driven and thinking about your goals very strategically. And I've had actually coaches that just do EOS implementation on the podcast. She was just focused on helping companies implement EOS. So that was a very niche, interesting thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking about investments you've made over time. What would you say have been some very good investments that you are proud of in terms of ROI? And if any, what have been some investments that you feel like mostly wasted your time or just like not good investments in terms of ROI?
Yeah. I mean, hiring a coach was good ROI for me. I mean, I hired a coach that was very skilled at building in systems and processes. If you think about a DISC assessment, it's a personality test. I'm a high I, so I'm an extrovert. I'm an idea guy. I'm a people person. I'm not always a systems and processes person. So
Hmm.
hiring an external coach as a coach takes a lot of humility. Number one, to be like, all right, I don't know this. Like, I don't know everything, which by the way, I teach my clients, you don't know everything, right? So I have to eat my own dog food, if you will. The the biggest waste of the ROI was I did not vet a couple of vendors that were selling me email lists. So I wanted to, I talked about the staffing company profile, ideal client profile. I
Hmm.
had bought these lists, and once I got them into my database and I was purchased and the contract was done, I mean, it was 90% junk, just junk. And I'm like, how did I get duped by this company? How did this happen? And of course, the rep that couldn't seem to lose my number during isn't calling me back. He's dark. They have the check. They're gone. I don't know where they are anymore, right? But so yeah, you just have to do your due diligence with stuff like that.
Yeah, especially when it comes to like big list. I assume you ordered a big list there.
And yeah, 10,000 names or whatever it was. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, interesting. So you went initially for like cold email marketing, right?
yeah, yeah. So I was trying to, like I said, I was trying to target that 25 to $50 million staffing firm, and you know, they promised me the C-suite and learning development leaders. Awesome, great. They give me the sample list, looks great. By the time I send the check and I get the list, it is not anything. I'm getting emails from different countries. I'm like, what is this? Like, this is awful,
Wow.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, shame on me. It wasn't a ton of money, but it was still, I'm a small business. It was an absolute waste of money. So
Yeah.
lesson learned. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely, yeah, even if it's not a big amount of money, like there's other ways you could have invested it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good learning though. It's always
Yep.
a good learning when it comes to these types of investments.
Yeah.
So right now, when thinking about your goal of like further increasing revenue, what would you say is a challenge right now that you're working on solving next? Because I think you're thinking very strategically about it.
Yeah. But so you think about that social media account. I mean, I've improved my social media profile and presence quite a bit in the past 6 months, thanks to my coach. But I will say having, gaining followers and really gaining traction in the Instagram algorithm and the LinkedIn algorithm has been a little challenging for me. So I am going to be likely looking, we talked a little bit before the podcast. I'm likely to be looking at a partner in the next year or two to help me figure that out because
Hmm.
I know what I have to offer to the world is very helpful. And I mean, I signed 26 master agreements in the last 2 years, and 23 of those clients extended me. So what that means to me is 90% of the clients that hire me bolt on additional services because they like working with me. And the other three, by the way, didn't fire me. It was just we had a contract, it ended, there was nothing else to do. So, I know what I have to offer is good for the clients that I bring it to. I just need to bring it to a bigger audience.
Interesting. And it's interesting that you mention Instagram too. I mean, most coaches do focus on LinkedIn. I totally understand that. But how come Instagram is one of the things that you want to focus on? Do you feel
I,
like the audience is there?
yeah, I do. I just feel like through my own personal experience and through others I've spoken to, having that online presence and that platform seems to be important. So, a lot of clients, to your point, if I have an introductory call or referral, whatever, everyone's going to look you up on LinkedIn. So you better have a tight profile on LinkedIn. Everybody's going to look at your website. But a lot of the bite-sized content they're going to consume on if you have a business Instagram account. So
Hmm.
I've worked very hard to professionalize and properly brand my Instagram account. If you go back to my content 2 years ago, it was
Hmm.
me doing it. And honestly, it's not great. I mean, the content's okay, but how it's presented isn't great. If you go back to October of last year to present, you're like, wow, this is, you'll probably say, wow, it's pretty good. Like the way it's produced and everything. So I just think it's important for, if you're a coach in a professional sector to have that, that brand presence that people see bite sizes of your methodology, your training, and they see that like, oh, that's interesting. And hopefully they come find you.
Cool. And so when it comes to LinkedIn, because that's where generally they will go first, is there a strategy you're utilizing right now?
Yeah, I mean, the strategy is honestly what I've learned about the algorithm is you need to be posting 2 to 3 times a week minimum. So generally speaking, you'll see the MTA Consultancy account with either static posts or Canva carousels or videos that either myself or Kenzie are producing on a weekly basis because it does come up in the algorithm. And honestly, I will tell you this, I don't track the one for one LinkedIn post to sale, but I will tell you that the phone has rang and I've gotten LinkedIn messages because people are like, Chris, I saw your content. I told my boss they're going to call you next week. So I do know that I've gained some business from, the social media accounts.
And you did actually mention you have a CRM too. So it's probably not going to be also challenging to connect the dots there when it comes to tracking if they're coming from that too. And this is from your company profile. You also, I believe, utilize your own profile, right?
I do. Yeah. I mean, my individual profile has 6,200 followers. My MTA consultancy has about 1,100 followers. So I continuously every month use the LinkedIn a premium
Hmm.
account to try to keep, reaching out to contacts. I spend time every month, honestly, almost every week on LinkedIn where I'm sending personal messages. I've even done coaching for business development professionals that you can send one-on-one videos to your contacts. So I will send a personalized video to a contact. I got to tell you a quick story about that. So
Hmm.
I learned how to send these videos. And there was a client who does $1 billion in revenue. I interviewed with this client when I was in corporate America about 11 years ago. And they went from 300 million to a billion. And I'm like, man, I got to track these people down. I'm emailing them. I'm calling them. Nothing. Dark, dark, dark. I send this woman a LinkedIn video. And I'm like, hey, so and so, it's Chris. I haven't seen you since 2016. Boom. Next day, meeting.
Wow.
So when I talk about like coaches being salespeople, like you have to just put yourself out there.
Hmm.
And I do think many coaches have that either whether it's their personality or they're afraid to sell or they don't want to be off-putting. And I get all of that.
Hmm.
But you have to be a little bit self-promoting, especially if you're a coach, especially if you're a small business, because if you're not doing, no one else is doing it for you. So you have to
Yeah.
promote yourself.
Cool. I totally agree with that. And it's actually a skill that generally is not found in coaches that I've interviewed. I interviewed many coaches, and it's generally a struggle for them to sell themselves
Right.
even when they're getting on the calls.
Right.
So I totally understand that. And so another question I wanted to ask you is when thinking about these coaches and also the level of coaching you're doing right now, is there any advice you'd give to other coaches who are looking to scale their impact just like you are?
Wow. I mean, look at first of all, you have to believe in yourself. I've always said if you don't believe, then how are you going to have the client believe? Like you really have to believe. And I've always said to coaches, if you believe in what you're doing and you believe that your product or service really benefits the world or your client, you have to get past imposter syndrome. Like you have to just be like, look, I'm an expert in this. I believe in this, and shove all your chips in. There was a book I read when I started my business called Burn the Boats. It's about the Spanish Armada, and it basically articulates, the Spanish Armada is at war. They're losing the battle on the shore, and the soldiers start to retreat to the boats. And the general says, burn the boats. And the lieutenant says, why are we going to burn the boats? Like, if we burn the boats, we can't leave. He goes, that's the idea. If we go all in and we commit, there's no way we're going to lose. And that's what happened, right? And so when there's no plan B and you stick with plan A eventually works out. Now, yes, you need funding. Yes, you need all these things. But like, you have to have an insane amount of belief in what you do, because if you don't, you're in the wrong business. Like it's too competitive. And again, what we do, we can't see, feel, or touch. So you have to have that enthusiasm, passion, and belief for what you do. Otherwise, your client's never going to have it.
Yeah, that is very good advice. And also knowing your why are you doing this? Because at difficult times you want to question yourself. You want to be able to think bigger than yourself and continue to push forward. So thank you so much, Chris. It was lovely having you on the show. For anyone who wants to connect with you and find you, they can go into LinkedIn, look up Chris Mader. They'll be able to find you there. They can also go into the website, maketheadjustment.com. They'll be able to find you there as well. And what was the Instagram account?
Yeah, and it's at MTA Consultancy. MTA stands for Make the Adjustment. So MTA Consultancy is our business handle on Instagram.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for coming to our show.
Rexhen, I appreciate the conversation today.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.